Okay, hi everybody. So my name's Caroline Earth. I work in the Student Services Department at Bournemouth University, and I'm here this afternoon to first of all say hello and welcome, and to give you some information that I hope you'll find useful when you're preparing to come to the UK. Many of you, I guess, maybe for the first time, and information about what you can expect when you first arrive in Bournemouth and when you first arrive at the university. So the different topics which we're going to cover during this webinar this afternoon. First of all, a little bit about your journey, how you're going to get to Bournemouth once you've landed at the airport. Many of you, I guess, will be arriving into Heathrow Airport in London or maybe Gatwick. So we'll talk about our airport transfer service and other options for travelling to Bournemouth. We'll also give you some information about week one, so that's your induction week at the university, what type of information you can expect to receive. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the things which we organise, especially for international students at the beginning of term, just to make sure that you've got all the information that you need to adjust to living in a new country. I'm going to give you an overview of some of the different student support services which exist at Bournemouth for you, and we'll also have a little bit of time to give you some information about free time activities, things that you can do in and around Bournemouth which are fun, and some suggestions of things that you can do to start to make friends once you get here. So, also, I wanted to mention before we get started, there is another webinar planned for the 17th of August. This is about student life in general. This is a webinar for all students who are undergraduates, including UK students, but it may well be something that's of interest to you. So you can register that with the link on the screen here. If you're interested in anything more specific, in particular maybe accommodation or immigration information, we do have an archive of all of the webinars that we've done so far this year, and the links to that are on the screen here too. So you may find it useful, if you didn't already attend those webinars, to go and have a look at them in the archives where you can see the presentations. After the webinar today, we will be circulating the presentation to all of you by email. So if there are any of the slides which have hyperlinks into the web pages, you'll be able to access those easily from the presentation that we send to you by email. So hopefully that makes it easy for you to find all the correct sections of our website. So, arriving in Bournemouth, this beautiful photograph is the Lower Gardens in Bournemouth. So the Lower Gardens is an area which is in between the town centre and Bournemouth Beach. So a really nice place to walk. So maybe it's a place when you first arrive that you'd like to visit, take a walk from the town centre through the gardens to the beach, and start to find your way around town a little bit. Most of you, I hope, will be arriving in Bournemouth on the 17th or 18th of September. That's the weekend when most students will check into their accommodation, and because it's the weekend when we expect most people to arrive, that's the weekend that we operate our airport transfer service. So if you're arriving to Heathrow Airport in London, which is the most popular airport for international flights to come to, then we will be operating free buses that run several times each day. We're expecting approximately 4 buses a day, depending on how many of you are arriving. They will have staff in the airport from 7 in the morning until about 3 in the afternoon on Saturday and Sunday that weekend. So the reason that we do this is to try to make your journey to Bournemouth as easy as possible for you. So when you arrive, you will collect your bags and everything, come through into the arrivals lounge at the airport, and we'll be there with Bournemouth University signs, Bournemouth University t-shirts to welcome you, answer any questions you've got, introduce you to other new students, and then when it's time for the bus to go, there'll be a member of staff and some student volunteers on the bus with you travelling to Bournemouth. We'll drop you off at the different halls of residence in Bournemouth when you arrive, and the members of staff and the students that are on your bus can help you give you some maps and information, make sure that you know where you need to get off the bus. So if maybe you're living in private accommodation or in a uni-let house, we can make sure that you get off the bus in the right place and that you know how to get to your accommodation. Maybe we can help you to book a taxi. It really will make your journey easier, I think. The best thing about it in many ways is that it means that you've met some other new students and started to make friends even before you've left the airport. And this is something that students always tell me is one of the best things about it. So if you're arriving that weekend, we'd really encourage you to use the service. It's free of charge, but you must register because we need to know how many of you to expect, so we know how many buses to book. And we also need to know your flight details and your flight arrival time so that we can make sure that we're there to meet you in the terminal that you're arriving to when you get there. So normally we would expect that it takes on average about 1.5 hours between when your plane lands and when you actually come through into arrivals. So that's to allow time for customs and immigration checks and any queues that are related to your baggage and things like that. So what we would encourage you to do is to, if possible, book a flight that arrives before 1:30 in the afternoon. Most international flights do land during the morning, so it shouldn't be too difficult. If for some reason your plane is going to land after 1:30, it's unlikely that you'll make it to us in time to use the university transfer service, but we will give you some information I'm going to talk about in a moment about other ways that you can get to Bournemouth, which is reasonably easy for you. If you're arriving into Gatwick Airport, then we also offer a meet and greet service there. Because it's not very busy, we don't actually run coaches or buses directly to Bournemouth, but the National Express, which is the UK bus company, runs very regular buses from Gatwick to Bournemouth. So what we will do is we'll have a member of staff there still to meet you when you arrive at the airport, and that member of staff will help you to find the bus station, make sure that you buy the correct ticket, help you to get a student discount for your ticket, and ensure that you get on the correct bus that will come directly to Bournemouth. So again, hopefully it will make your journey easier, but you will, if you're coming to Gatwick, you will need to pay for your own ticket on the National Express bus. Even if you're coming to Gatwick, you still need to register for the service because we need to know your flight arrival details in order to make sure that we're in the right place to meet you when you land. So the registrations for both of these services are open now. Many students have already booked. The link is at the bottom of the screen there. I'd really encourage you, please, if you've booked your flight already, book your airport transfer now. There's no reason to delay. If your flight details change for any reason, you can always email us and we'll update the details for you. But as soon as you've got your flight booked and you know when you're arriving, then book your airport transfer so that we can plan to be there to meet you. If you're arriving maybe to a different airport or you're going to arrive earlier or later for some reason, then National Express is the easiest and cheapest way to get from any of the major airports to Bournemouth. It's usually much cheaper and more direct than taking the train. And it costs usually from London approximately £30 depending on where you get on the bus. Some students I know prefer to take a taxi, especially if you're arriving on your own, maybe late in the evening, or maybe your parents feel more secure for you to take a taxi. It's not really necessary. The buses in the UK are very reliable and very safe. But if you would prefer to take a taxi, then there's a link there on the screen. We'd recommend that you use this company because it's a company which we use at the university and we know that they're reliable and safe. The most important thing with any taxis, regardless of which company you choose to use, is that you book them in advance. So if you wait until you arrive at the airport and then decide to take a taxi, firstly, it will be much, much more expensive. And secondly, you don't really have any way of guaranteeing the reliability and the security of the company that you're using. So it puts you in a little bit more of a vulnerable position. So we'd really recommend that if you do plan to take a taxi, that you book it in advance. A few other things to consider about your journey then. So When you're thinking about packing, there are some things that you might be very useful for you to keep in your hand luggage so that you've got it available to you when you're on the plane, and especially immediately after you've landed, before you've collected your suitcases. So if you're travelling from outside of the EU and you're coming to the UK on a Tier 4 student visa, it's very important that in your hand luggage you have something that shows your UK address. So this could be a letter or a printout of an email from the university confirming your accommodation. You also need to have your BU offer letter and a printout of your cash statement. Now, you may not need all of these things, but you may be asked for them, and it will make your life a lot easier when you're talking to the immigration officers in the airport if you've got these things easily available in your hand luggage. We'd recommend for every student that you bring a small amount of UK currency with you. It's difficult to say how much. It obviously depends on your circumstances, but as a rule I would say maybe between £50 and £100. You shouldn't need to bring more than that. Once you've arrived in Bournemouth, it's easy for you to access cash machines, ATMs, to withdraw money from the bank, even as long as you've got a Visa or MasterCard, something like that. It's easy for you to withdraw money once you're here. So we wouldn't recommend that you carry large amounts of cash around with you. However, it will be useful for you when you first arrive at the airport if you want to buy something to eat or drink, if you want to maybe book a taxi once you arrive in Bournemouth from the bus station to your accommodation. All of these things you might need a little bit of cash for. So we'd recommend you bring a small amount with you just for the first day or so. Also, if you're going to use our airport transfer service at either Heathrow or Gatwick, we will email you the week before with an attachment which is a sign that you can print out. We would really encourage you to use this if you're using the airport transfer service, because it makes it much easier for us to find you in the airport. So it's just a sign that says, I'm looking for BU. What it means is that we have a way of identifying you as a BU student. You can either hold it up or you can attach it to your suitcases. So it's a really, really helpful thing for us, because of course we don't know what you look like and it's an extremely busy airport. Hopefully it will be easier for you to see us, but this really makes our job easier and avoids you getting lost in the airport. So print that out and bring it with you once you've got it from us. It's worth also thinking about the landing card. So in most cases, if you're travelling from outside of the EU, you'll be given a landing card on the plane. If you're in any doubt about how to complete it or whether you need to complete it, speak to one of the air stewards on the plane and they'll be able to help you. But really what I wanted to say about that was, if you do need to complete that form, it's much better if you can do that whilst you're still on the plane. So if you wait until you arrive at immigration, then you're going to have a delay because you haven't already completed it. So we're just trying to give you advice to make your journey through the airport as smooth and easy as possible. Once you've landed, you'll go through immigration control. Make sure you choose the correct queue. There'll be two different queues, one for EU citizens and one for everybody from outside of the EU. Usually the EU queue moves a bit quicker because the immigration rules are not as strict, but for non-EU students we expect that it would take normally at least an hour for you to pass through the immigration controls and checks. Sometimes they may want to talk to you or interview you. This isn't always because they're concerned about your visa. It might just be a random check that they're doing. So it shouldn't be anything for you to worry about, but it's just really, I wanted to let you know so you're prepared. They may want to take you into a different room, interview you, ask you some questions. Usually the things they ask are things to do with which course you're coming to study, where you're going to be living, and they're just checking that you're genuinely a student and coming to the UK for the right reasons. So there shouldn't be any questions which are difficult for you to answer. It's all things which you automatically will know, but it may take a little bit of time. So if you do have any problems in immigration, our Ask BU staff are working that weekend. The phone lines should be open. So the telephone number is there on the screen, 969696. and you can call that number over the weekend if you've got any big problems with immigration. So really it's only for emergencies, but it may be possible for someone in the university to speak to the immigration officer if necessary, and just clarify a few details for you. So once you've passed through immigration control, you'll need to collect your baggage. Again, this might take a little bit of time, who knows, and then you will also need to go through customs and ensure that you choose the correct lane when you're going through customs. So most of you hopefully have nothing to declare and would go through the green lane unless you know you're bringing in something very specific. So I'm going to talk a little bit more in a moment about what you can and can't bring in your luggage to the UK. So when you're packing, things to think about putting in your suitcase or not. Remember the British weather, especially if you're travelling to the UK from a hot country. I know these students sometimes find it a bit of a shock when they first arrive here if the temperature is very different to at home. In September, it's difficult for me to predict and to tell you what the weather will be like when you arrive. We're finishing the summer and starting the autumn, so if you're lucky it will be sunny, but it's quite likely that it could be rainy and windy and maybe a bit cold. So make sure you bring with you some warm jumpers. A waterproof coat would be really useful, maybe an umbrella, and some waterproof shoes, I guess, as well. However, if you're coming from a really hot country, don't forget we do have shops here. So if you don't have lots of warm jumpers in your wardrobe because you don't normally need them at home, it might be easier for you to buy them once you arrive in the UK. And we can give you information about which shops to go to, which are maybe not so expensive. We'd recommend that you bring a few things with you to remind you of home. Don't only bring practical things, but think about if there's something you could bring that would help you to share your culture a little bit with your new friends that you're going to make once you get here. Sometimes during the year at the university we have cultural celebrations where we ask students to tell us a bit about their culture or show us things. So if you've got things like maybe traditional clothing from your country or any kind of cultural items perhaps, that might be a nice thing to bring with you. Certainly bring some photographs, bring posters or things that you could decorate your new room with once you move into your halls of residence, just to make it feel a little bit more homely. So keep in mind the luggage allowance for your airline. If you're not sure what it is, the airline will be able to tell you. It's usually much cheaper for you to stick under the luggage allowance, and if you need to bring more things, then maybe pack a box of the non-essential things that you need to bring and ask your parents to ship it to the UK after you've arrived. If you ship it before, we don't have any storage facility at the university where we can keep it for you. But if you just wait until you've arrived and then get your parents to send it on, usually the cost of shipping is much less than the cost of the excess baggage if you wanted to bring an extra suitcase, for example, with you. The other thing that you need to remember is that once you arrive in the UK, you are going to need to carry your own suitcases around the airport, on and off the bus, maybe up the stairs in your accommodation. So don't bring too much that's going to make it really difficult for you, especially if you've got a long journey. You don't want to be struggling with all your cases once you arrive. Normally my recommendation would be, because you only have two hands, just bring two cases and then it's easy for you to carry them. There are trolleys in the airport, but you can't always take the trolley through every section of the airport. So if you need to take a shuttle train between the terminals, for example, you can't take your trolley on the train, so you need to take your cases off and then put them back onto a trolley when you get off at the next terminal. So all of those things are quite difficult if your cases are really heavy and you've got several cases. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about your packing. In terms of what you are not allowed to bring in your suitcases to the UK, if you're travelling from within the EU, basically there aren't really many restrictions as long as you're not bringing huge quantities of things. The main things which there are restrictions about are to do with food. So if you're an EU student, you can really bring most foods you're allowed to bring, as long as you're bringing in small quantities. If you're travelling from outside of the EU, then the best thing, easiest thing for you is do not bring any food with you. This includes some of the things which are banned are dried meat, dairy products, plant products, even if they're dried. All of these things are forbidden in your luggage. So they do have x-rays at the airport, they have sniffer dogs, and they will often detect if you've got any food products within your suitcases. So I know often what students tell me is usually it's their mums that are wanting to make sure that they've got plenty of food with them. But my recommendation is to make your life easy and to avoid any difficulties and any fines when you arrive at the airport. If you're travelling from outside the EU, just do not bring any food with you. You will probably be surprised once you arrive how easy it is to find food, even specialist things from your home country, in shops in Bournemouth. So the large supermarkets often have a global section that stocks food from around the world. But also we have some smaller supermarkets that are specialist, that sell specialist foods from China, Thailand, Asia, halal meat, for example, different Middle Eastern foods. We have like Polish supermarkets. If you're European from Germany or Scandinavia, we have Aldi and Lidl here, which I know lots of students from that part of the world tell me is easy to find some of the brands that you're familiar with from home. So it's probably not as difficult as you think to get the foods that you're familiar with. So my recommendation would be just don't bring them with you because it will cause problems at the airport. So once you've arrived in Bournemouth, getting around and moving between the campuses, finding your way around the town, there's lots of information on our website. So I'm not going to talk about it in detail, but if you want to see maps and directions, you can get all of that from the website there. If you're interested in cycling, it's really easy and quite cheap to either buy or hire a bicycle whilst you're here. We've got great bicycle storage facilities at the university. And you can get discounts in local cycling shops as well if you want to buy a bike or things like a bicycle helmet or a lock for your bike, that type of thing. The university has a fantastic bus service which runs really regularly between the two campuses, Lansdowne campus and Talbot campus, and also out to all of the halls of residences. So you can find all of the details for that online. Most of you, if you're living in university accommodation, will be offered the option when you book to pay your rent to include the price of a key card, which is an annual bus pass, which you can use for free travel then on the buses. If you're not sure whether or not that's good value, you're not sure how much you're going to use the bus, maybe you're thinking about cycling instead, then during the first week, week one, all of the buses are free. This gives you a chance to try out the service, find out what your course timetable is, and then if you want to make a decision later in the week, you can then book an annual bus pass if you want to, or you can buy a different type of bus ticket which is loaded with 10 journeys. So you top it up online, and then you can just use that as and when you need to, and it's still a cheaper way of travelling than paying by cash on the bus. So if you want to wait and work out what's going to be best for you once you've arrived, that's fine too. So a little bit about your first week or so at the university. During week one, which starts on Monday the 19th of September, you'll enroll on your course. This is obviously really important. That's when you become officially a university student, and you'll get your BU ID card, which you can also use as your library card and for printing. Your course will have arranged lots of introductory lectures and seminars and workshops which introduce you to your course and also to the faculty and the staff there. So those are really, really essential for you to attend and will be a great way for you to get to know the other students that you're going to be studying with and start to get a feel for your subject. As well as that, during the first week, there are a few sessions which are specifically designed for new international students. So those deal with the more practical aspects of adjusting to your new life here, whether it's talking to you about culture shock, giving you some tips about the British culture, things which are polite and rude in the UK that might be different to at home, or whether it's giving you tips about where's the cheapest supermarket, ways to save money, things like that. So you'll find out about all of those sessions either through your faculty or in the events guide, which I'll tell you a bit more about in a moment. During that first week and into the second week as well, there is a huge programme of really varied events that are happening for you, which take place during the daytime and in the evenings, which are really just social opportunities for you, activities for you to get involved with, to meet other new students, to start to make friends, to get involved with extracurricular activities at the university. So all of those things are included in this events guide. This will be sent to you. If you're in the EU, we'll send this to you by post in the middle of August. If you're living outside of the EU, you can collect a copy of this when you arrive, but we will email you all of this information, a link to this, which is on our website, in the middle of August as well. So all of you will be able to access this information from the middle of August. And the back of the book here is full of events programs, pages and pages of events for the first 2 weeks that you're here. So really exciting stuff in there for you. It includes things like excursions, there's a fish and chip quiz night, there's karaoke, there's party evenings, there's quieter things like a film night or a quiz, a comedy evening, so all types of things. Doesn't matter who you are, if you are a big party animal or if you just prefer to do quieter things with small groups of people, you will definitely find something that's suitable for you. So that's the first week or so that you're here. Here's a few pictures of some of the different places that we visit on our excursions, which start during the first week and continue through the rest of the term. So I mentioned a little bit already about our orientation programme. All of these details are in here in your events guide, so you can check them online soon. One of the things we do during that week, which is fantastic, is an information fair for international students. So that takes place this year on the Friday, the 23rd, and you can go there to find out about and speak to people, representatives from banks, mobile phone companies. You can register with a doctor. You can speak to people from different university departments like sport, music, art, the Students' Union. You can find out about international clubs and societies, and lots of information that it will be really helpful and useful to you as an international student. So come along to that if you can. It runs for 4 hours. You probably only need to come for half an hour or an hour, but just to go around, have a look and speak to the people you need to speak to get some of the practical aspects of your life in the UK organised. You'll also all, EU and non-EU students, will need to take part in a pre-enrolment check. So we'll email you the details about the time and venue for this before you arrive. And at that pre-enrolment check, if you are a non-EU student with a Tier 4 student visa, you will be able to collect your biometric residence card from us. So that's a really important process that has to take place before you can enrol on your course. And in most cases, that will take place on the same day as your course enrolment. On Friday the 23rd in the evening, so to celebrate really the end of your first week at Bournemouth University, we have the International Commencement Ceremony, which is a fantastic special evening which allows the university to formally welcome all of you new international students and celebrate your arrival. So this takes place in the Bournemouth International Centre. It's the same venue where you'll graduate at the end of your course, so you're kind of beginning and ending in the same venue. And we'll have some speeches, there'll be a dinner. It's a fantastic event. If you have a look on the website, the link is there at the bottom of the screen. You can see a short video from last year's event and some photographs to give you an idea of what it's like. The most important thing is that you need to book a ticket. It's completely free of charge, so you don't need to pay, but because there's a dinner and it's a seated event, we need to know if you're planning to come. So you can book your ticket online. You'll get a ticket emailed either to your email account or to your smartphone, and then you can bring that with you on the evening. So if you know already you're going to definitely be here and you're planning to come along, then register as soon as you can. Those registrations are open now. A few other things that you can register for already in advance. On Monday the 19th, we're going to do a trip to IKEA in the late afternoon, early evening. You can book for this online. It just costs £3.50, picks up from all the different halls of residence. And IKEA is a mainly furniture and household store. It's about 45 minutes from Bournemouth. So if you want to go there to buy any small pieces of furniture or household equipment, maybe things for the kitchen, plates, saucepans, that type of thing, it's quite a cheap and good quality place for you to go. So you might want to think about that. The quiz night in chaplaincy, which is with fish and chips provided, is also free of charge, but because they have a limited number of spaces, I think the maximum is 70, this sells out really quickly. So if you think you would like to go to that, register as soon as you can online, and it's first come, first served for the first 70 students that register. The excursions that I mentioned earlier, all of those for the whole of the first term are available to book online. So if you're interested in going to London or the Isle of Purbeck or any of those places, I think there's a Harry Potter trip later in the term to the Harry Potter Studios, if any of you are fans of that. So all these things, you can buy tickets for those excursions, which are usually on Saturdays. Normally they cost about £25 for the whole day, so it's quite good value and a great way to meet other new students. So a little bit about study support. Our main student support hub is Ask BU. So any questions you've got, if you're not sure who to ask, then phone Ask BU or come and see them or send them an email, and they will be able to either answer your question or put you in contact with the right person in the university who has got the information that you need. So they can help you with things like bank letters, resetting your computer password. We have a specialist team within Ask BU who deal with immigration, and another specialist team that deal with finance. And really, if you need to see somebody in the university, we can help you to make an appointment to see them, or we can refer you on to any other specialist support services. We've got two main office spaces where we deal with face-to-face inquiries. So you can come and see us at the base, which is in the main reception area in Poole House, but you can also come to Lansdowne campus and see us in the library there, and the contact details at the bottom of the screen for phone and email. As well as that, we have a student wellbeing service on campus. So obviously we hope you're really happy during your time here, but if you're coming here for a year or more, maybe at some point you have some problems, you feel upset, homesick, maybe you're not eating well, or you've split up with your boyfriend and you just need to talk to somebody. Student Wellbeing Service can help you with all of that, as well as more serious mental health issues too. So they will refer you on to counselling if necessary, or other types of mental health support services in the local community. We have a really active chaplaincy, which is really popular with international students in particular. They arrange all kinds of events for students. Not always religious events, but sometimes, of course, they are mainly about supporting different faiths. So if you have a particular faith and that's a big part of your life in your home country, it will probably be important to you to link up with other people that share your faith once you're here in Bournemouth. And the chaplaincy can help you to do that. So they will put you in contact with other students in the university who are the same religion as you. Quite often there's a society or a club for those students. And they'll also recommend to you places of worship. So they can tell you about local churches or mosques or synagogues or temples, so that you can find the places that you want to go to worship on a regular basis, or to celebrate religious festivals and things like that. They have an Islamic prayer room on campus for Muslim students, and they also have a quiet room that you can use to just go and be peaceful. If you practice meditation or anything like that, they run meditation classes there. So anything really to do with spirituality, chaplaincy can help you with. They run a fantastic global cafe, which is nothing to do with religion, but just an opportunity for international students to come together every Wednesday and have a chat, relax, and they give free tea and coffee and cookies. So it's really popular, and it's a great way for you to make friends with other international students once you arrive. And that starts on the first Wednesday that you're here during week 1. The Students' Advice Centre, which is based within the Students' Union, can also help you with all kinds of different issues, and especially if you want some support that's independent from the university, the Students' Union will always treat your issues with confidentiality. And if you ever did want to make a complaint against the university for any reason, which obviously we hope you won't, but the Students' Union are there to help you and to help to represent you in that way. There's a medical centre on campus which you can register for once you arrive, and all of you should be entitled to free health treatment once you're here. So if you're coming from within the EU, the most important thing is to bring with you a European health insurance card. You can apply for that in your home country before you travel to the UK, and it's quite difficult to apply for it once you arrive in the UK, so that's something you need to do now if you don't already have one. If you're coming here on a student visa from outside of the EU, then you will pay the immigration health surcharge as part of your visa application, and that then means that once you arrive you're automatically covered for free health treatment on the National Health Service. So you should never have to pay any money to a doctor. Once you're here in the UK, it's just free. The only thing you might need to pay for is prescription medication, which is the same that British people have to pay, and it's not a huge cost. It's I think less than £10. So if you do have an existing medical condition and you're regularly taking medication, it's a good idea to bring with you enough medication for at least the first month to give yourself time to register with a doctor and for your doctor to organise a prescription for you that matches what you're normally taking from home. So do keep that in mind. I know that for many of you, you may be concerned that you're coming to study in English, which may not be your first language, and I think it's really, really natural for you to worry a little bit about how am I going to cope with studying in another language, am I going to understand people, maybe the accent is different, maybe you're going to struggle a little bit, especially in the beginning, with some of the slang and the informal colloquial language that your course mates, British course mates, are using. And I think that's normal for anybody going to another country, regardless of how good your English is. However, usually it's just a temporary thing for the first few weeks. We know that you've got the right level of English to come and study here because we wouldn't have offered you a place on a course here if we didn't believe that. And there is support available to you. So in your faculty there will be some support for international students to help you with language and study skills and those sorts of things. But for all students across faculties, the information you can see here on the screen is available to you. Much of this is online learning resources, so you can access it from your laptop or iPad when you're in your halls of residence. Even if you'll go back to your home country in the holidays, you can still access it. You just need your university username and password. And we have a language advisor who's based in the library on Talbot campus, and he'll do a one-to-one appointment with you to give you some guidance and maybe to help you identify where are your weak points with the English language, and then suggest to you some of the resources that you might be able to use to help to improve those specific areas of grammar or vocabulary. So that's a really useful resource to use, and he's super friendly and helpful, so do make use of that if you feel that you need it. Also, some of you might be interested in learning another language when you're here. If you're really keen linguists, then we also run conversation classes on a weekly basis with a native speaker who's usually a current student from that country. And those are classes in French, German, Spanish, Italian, Mandarin Chinese and Arabic. So those classes run at all levels, from complete beginner up to advanced. There are lots of online learning resources that you can access to learn and practice the language, and then the conversation classes each week will help you to put into practice what you've been learning online. So that's a great opportunity either to learn a new language or continue practicing a language that you already speak, or if you feel maybe you'd like to be a conversation club facilitator, that can be a great experience for you too, to help other students to learn your own native language. So maybe something for you to think about. So I said we'd talk a little bit about free time activities. I guess I want to give you some fun stuff to look forward to once you've settled in a little bit. You can see here, this photograph's a beach that's quite near to Bournemouth, actually in Poole. and this is a group of students who are taking part in a volunteering activity to do with conservation and collecting litter from the beach and doing some nature preservation work. So sometimes the Students' Union run these activities that's just a whole day on a Saturday or Sunday, or it might be something they do on a regular basis every Wednesday evening, for example. So there's all sorts of things like that that you can get involved with if you're interested. Lots of different volunteering opportunities. You may want to get a part-time job whilst you're here, so there are quite a few opportunities to work on campus, either for the university in places like the library or as a student ambassador perhaps, or within the Students' Union in their shop or cafe or bar. We will be having a part-time jobs fair on campus in October. So because Bournemouth's a really tourist town, coming up to the Christmas season, there are lots of hotels, shops and restaurants that take on additional part-time staff, and that can be really great opportunities for students to earn a bit of extra money and have a bit of work experience. So we'll be inviting those local organisations to come onto campus to promote their job opportunities for the Christmas period to you. If you're interested in that, that will be really helpful. The other project that I wanted to mention quickly was the Global Buddies project. If you haven't registered for this already, the registrations are live online now. The deadline for you to apply is the 31st of August, so you need to do it in the next few weeks. And the idea of this project is to bring students of all different nationalities, including UK students, to bring you together in multicultural groups and encourage you to learn about each other's cultures. And that's not always easy because sometimes there are a lot of misunderstandings or it's difficult to communicate. But if you are prepared to put the effort and the energy into this, it can be a really, really rewarding experience. And some of the students that took part last year really had a fantastic time and made some good friends through it. So if that's something that interests you, have a look at the website for more information and apply online. And this will begin at the beginning of September, so before you arrive. So we'll put you in contact with each other via email. We set up a Facebook group, and then you can keep in contact with your new buddy group, which normally will include about 10 to 15 students. It includes some current students that can help you with information to get settled into Bournemouth. And then you'll meet with your buddy group during the first week that you're here, and then regularly throughout the rest of the term. So do apply for that if you're interested. I spoke about volunteering a bit already. There are also lots of clubs and societies that you can take part in for all different hobbies and interests, all kinds of different things. If you have a look at that link there, there's a whole list. We have over 100 different clubs and societies at the university that are all run by students. So it's a great opportunity for you to either take up a new hobby, or if you have a hobby already, that's a great way for you to make friends, because if you join a society, then those people share the same interests as you, so you've got more in common with them. If you're a really sporty person, then the Sport BU department and their website has a huge range of different sports opportunities available to you, and you can check all of the details online. And we're really lucky in Bournemouth, the location of our town, by the beach, near to the coast. We have the New Forest to the east of us, we have the Purbeck and the Jurassic Coast to the west of us, both of which are really beautiful areas, and we're only 2 hours from London by train or bus. So I would really, really encourage you during your free time to get out and about and explore a little bit the local area, because Bournemouth is great, but there are some really great places outside of Bournemouth as well, and I really want you to make the most of your time in the UK and really see as much as possible of the region that we're in here in the south. So a quick summary then to finish. My biggest tip for you, and I cannot say it strongly enough how important it is to please, please check your emails regularly. We will be contacting you by email regularly between now and when you arrive at university and throughout your time here. If you want to be well prepared, check your emails regularly, read your emails carefully, and I promise that you will have all the information that you need to know. So we will be emailing you dates and times and locations for your enrolment and your pre-enrolment checks. We'll be emailing you passwords that you need to use to do your online registration. We'll be emailing you this events guide so you know about all the different events that are happening. We email you your invitation and more information about the commencement ceremony. And if you've booked an airport transfer bus, we'll be emailing you reminders about that, information about how to meet us at the airport, a telephone number you can use if you get lost at the airport and you need to find us. All these things will come to you by email. So as long as you check your inbox, you should have all the information you need. And if anything's not clear or you want to ask questions, you can always email us back or phone us if you want to. So I hope that that presentation's given you some useful information, got you thinking about some things, and we're really looking forward to welcoming you in September. So I think we'll take some questions and answers now.